All right, we're on the second video of lesson 7 and we are rounding decimal numbers. So today we're looking at this number right here. I'm just going to make it a little bigger and circle it. Sorry, this is a period at the end, but you can see 8 and 6/10, right? 8 and 6/10. And we're going to think about what we know about rounding whole numbers to help us round decimal numbers to the nearest one. Okay, so how many ones do you see in 8 and 6/10? That is 8 ones. Good. And what is one more than 8? That would be 9 ones. And between which two ones is 8 and 6/10? It's between 8 and it's between 9. Okay, so we're going to use a vertical number line. And let me show you our vertical number line here. Okay, so you see 9 ones and 8 ones, right? And in between those two, we have 8 and 6/10. So when we're rounding numbers, we're going to use a number halfway between those two benchmark numbers to round our decimal numbers. So you see how we have a line here, halfway between the two, right? Okay, so what number is halfway between 8 ones and 9 ones? You might be thinking to yourself, halfway between 8 ones and 9 ones, that would be 8 and 5/10, right? Because you know that 5/10 is the same as 1/2, right? So 8 ones, 5/10 is halfway between. Okay, good. We could also think of this as 85/10 if we're thinking about unit form, right? Here we have 85/10. And 8 ones, think about your number next to it, right? We always name our tenths, our decimals by the last number. So 85/10, 80/10, and 90/10, right? If we want to think about our unit forms. Okay, I'm just going to put a T here just so it's a little bit faster. Okay, and then the number that we are trying to round, let's get a different color. The number that we're trying to round is 86/10, right? I'm sorry, 8 and 6/10. So 8 and 6/10, and that is 86/10. Got it? Okay, so is 8 and 6/10 closer to 8 or closer to 9? And how do you know? Okay, you might be noticing that it's closer to 9, right? Because it's just past our halfway mark here. Yeah, so it's actually closer to 9, and it has 6/10, and here's 5/10, right? So it's closer to 9. So since 8 and 6/10 is closer to 9 than 8, we'll round 8 and 6/10 to 9 ones. All right, rounding to the closest ones. So we're looking at our ones here. Okay. All right. Remember, if you need to rewatch, you can do that, or you can pause here if you needed to. All right. So now let's think about another one. Yeah. Let's think about 8 and 3/10. All right. So looking at our same number line, our vertical number line, 8 ones, 8.5, 8 and 5/10, and 9 ones. If I had 8 and 3/10, where would that fall on our vertical number line? 8 and 3/10. So that would be about here. Yeah. Right? 8 and 3/10. Is that closer to 9 or closer to 8? You might say that it's closer to 8, and then you would round it to 8 ones, right? Remember, anything 5 and higher is going to be closer to 9. Anything less than 5/10 or our halfway mark is going to be closer to the lower number. All right, nice job. Okay, now let's think about how does unit form help us when we're rounding. You see how unit form can help us label our number line? Since we're rounding to the nearest ones, we can look at our unit form of ones. If we were rounding to the nearest tenths, we could look at unit form of tenths, which we added a little bit in there. And if we're looking for unit form of hundredths, then we can, if we're looking for rounding to the nearest hundredths, then we can think of unit form of hundredths. Okay, so let's look at problem 1 in your book. This is on page 63. So pause the video if you need to get your Learn book out and go to page 63. Okay, and there on page 63, you are going to see that we are going to be looking at 12 and 72 hundredths. See if I can make that bigger. Yep, 12 and 72 hundredths rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, so on your vertical number line, we're going to have to think about what are the tenths place for 12 and 72 hundredths? What's the next tenth up? And what's the middle? Okay, so let me see if I can do this over here. All right, I'm just going to do it right here. I'm going to draw my vertical number line. Sorry, it's not showing up very good on my page. And we have 12 and 72 hundredths. All right, so let's think about 12 and 72 hundredths. Yeah? Okay, so, okay, good. I got a whiteboard for us. So 12 and 72 hundredths, and I'm rounding to the nearest tenths. So I'm looking at my tenths, and I'm thinking, well, here I have 127 tenths, right? 127 tenths, which is also the same as 12 and 7/10. And then I think of my next tenths up. That would be 12 and 8/10. And if I'm thinking about unit form, that would be 128 tenths. Then I'm thinking, what is between the two of those? So between the two of those would be 1, 2, 8, 5, right? Because 5 is going to be halfway between. Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake there. Not 1, 2, 8, 1, 2, 7, right? Sorry, just trying to get my eraser. Okay. So 127 and 5/10, or 127 tenths and 5 hundredths. Okay, so now I have it set up. Now I'm going to take my 12 and 72 hundredths, and I'm going to see where does it fit. 12 and 72 hundredths. It's more than 12 and 7, or 12 and 70 hundredths, and it's, sorry, just realized the decimal point was in the wrong place there, and it's less than 12 and 75 hundredths, right? So which one is it closer to? It's going to be closer to 12 and 7/10, or 127 tenths. Okay, so you see a little squiggly line next to 12 and 72 hundredths in your book. That's an estimation. So the closest tenths would be 12 and 7/10. So I'm rounding 12 and 72 hundredths to the closest tenths, 12 and 7/10. All right, nice job. And sorry, I meant to clean that screen off there. There we go. Clean our screen. So let's try one more really quick before you get ready to do one on your own, because we have some tricky situations that we just need to look at and make sure that we're clear. Let's look at this one. This is number 2 in your book. And you can see that we're looking at rounding 4 and 935 thousandths to the nearest hundredths, right? So we're looking at the nearest hundredths. And so we're saying I have 493 hundredths. I have 4 and 93 hundredths. So then the next hundredths up would be 4 and 94 hundredths, or 4 and 494 hundredths. What's halfway? 4 and 93 hundredths and 5 thousandths. That's halfway in between, right? So then we think about, where's this number hit on the number line? Well, actually, it hits right in between. And remember, if it hits halfway, then it's closer to the top. So that would be 4 and 94 hundredths would be your closest hundredth. Okay, you are going to do number 3 and number 4 on page 64 on your own and see if you can apply this information. All right, give it a try. If you get stuck here, this is a good place to ask for help, either from me or from one of your classmates, and say, I'm still having trouble with this, drawing my vertical number lines, knowing how to put my bottom number, adding 1 to make my top number, and putting my middle number, okay? Practice this before you go on to your next video. All right, thanks for watching.